Hi, and welcome to another episode of Connecting Women Who Break Barriers. Today I have the beautiful Kat with me. Hi, Kat. How are you?
Hi, I'm good. How are you?
Yeah, I'm great. You look really rugged up for winter, which has officially hit Melbourne. I would love for you to share a little bit about who you are, what you do, and just one of your interests.
Yeah, sure. Well, first of all, thank you for having me. It's really lovely to be having this chat. So I am an Ayurvedic practitioner and I'm based in Mentone in Melbourne. And I basically offer Ayurvedic massage, Ayurvedic treatments, and Ayurvedic health consultations. I have a little home clinic. Before I became an Ayurvedic practitioner, I was a registered nurse. I still am, but not working on the wards. So I have a background in nursing, and then I transitioned more so into my interest of Ayurveda and natural health. And in terms of one of my interests, travel definitely. Travel, and I love cats, and I love food. So yeah, and chai as well.
Nice, nice. And in terms of traveling, do you have any local or international plans for this year? Something that
We
you're looking
actually
forward to?
do, which is very exciting to say because it's been a very long time. So we're going over for a family holiday to Bali. So it's going to be a bit of a just a kind of chuck your bags down and flop and relax holiday. But it's with a 2-year-old, so it probably won't be that relaxing. But yeah, it'll definitely be a beautiful change. And I just love Bali and I love the climate and I love the fact that there's massage and yoga and all the things that I love. So yeah, that'll be nice.
Nice. And I'd definitely like to know more about it offline because Bali's somewhere that I've been wanting to go to. So I look forward to hearing more about your
Mm.
experience. So let's get a little bit more acquainted for our listeners about Ayurveda. So, can you explain a little bit about what Ayurveda actually is?
Yeah, so Ayurveda, I guess if we break down the word Ayur means life, and then the word Veda means study or knowledge of. So Ayurveda is the study of or the knowledge of life. It's also known as the science of life. And it's very much focused on living in tune with the seasons and with nature, going with the flow of nature rather than against it, and really recognizing that we are nature, we are part of nature, and we can't sort of separate ourselves from nature. So yeah, and I guess it's if people have heard of traditional Chinese medicine, I would liken it a little to that. So very similar concepts, but at the same time, it's different. But yeah, very much based on a five element theory. It's a traditional system of natural healing medicine, essentially.
I've had the beautiful privilege of coming to you for different therapy sessions myself, or rather massage sessions. And one thing that I do know about Ayurveda and something that I have an interest on is there's three different doshas. So can you please
Mm.
explain what those three doshas are for anyone that doesn't know anything about Ayurveda?
Yeah, so to put it simply, basically, each one of us we all have a very unique constitution in our body and our mind. So, um, the three doshas, they're energies, is one way of putting it. So, they're different qualities and energies. So, the three doshas are called vata, pitta, kapha. And basically, I'll break them down a little bit. So, a vata constitution or a vata dosha is made up of the elements air and ether. So its qualities are dry, spacey, airy, rough, hard at times. And Vata people can be generally quite thin and have the qualities of Vata in their body. So maybe dry skin, dry hair. They might be a little bit spacey. They might be anxious. There's lots of qualities that typically go along with the Vata type. However, it's always, it always depends on what else is going on for that person.
Mhm.
So pitta dosha is made up of fire and water. So this is going back to the five element theory that I mentioned. So fire and water. And a pitta qualities are more kind of oily, pungent, heating, spreading. And in terms of like the person and how that would manifest in qualities, they might be, very good at managing people, competitive, driven, um, athletic, and loving, a little bit fiery in temperament at times. And then kapha. So kapha dosha is made up of earth and water, and those qualities are cool, stable, oily, firm, and kind of kapha people in manifestation are bigger boned people. They are might have extra weight. They might be very calm. They might be kind of more of that person that kind of is in it for the long haul. So they kind of have really sustained, long flowing energy and compassionate, loyal, you know, Kaphas are good to have on your team.
And then further to knowing your body type, one thing that I did want to explore a little bit further with you, especially since we're changing seasons going into winter, is there any
Mm.
food that you recommend that all three body or dosha type people could have and that would be nourishing for the change in season?
Yeah, absolutely. So ghee, I mean, for a Kapha person, maybe a little bit less ghee, but still ghee is great for all three doshas, great to cook with. And the reason why ghee is good moving into winter is because we get very dry in winter. So that can express through our hair, our poos can get dry. We might get gassy and constipated. Um, Yeah. And so by using ghee in our cooking, it's just a really nice way to lubricate the inside of our bodies, ease digestion, and it's also really great for your gut health for anyone. The other thing is ginger. So just fresh ginger. You can grate some fresh ginger into your porridge or into your meals. If you find it, if a pitta person, feels very overheated by ginger, just don't have as much. And then just your sort of general cooking spices like cumin, coriander, fennel, they're all really great to just use on a regular basis for cooking and to enhance the digestive power and warm up the insides.
And if you haven't cooked from an Ayurvedic perspective ever, and this is the first time that you're hearing about it, there is a little bit of a misconception that Ayurvedic cooking or Ayurvedic lifestyle is predominantly Indian food based.
Mm.
You don't have a palate for Indian food. How do they get started?
Yeah, so you can absolutely still follow Ayurvedic principles without having to eat, you know, dal for breakfast. So I don't eat dal for breakfast, but yeah, so one of the main kind of core things that we talk about in Ayurveda is eating warm and cooked foods. So that doesn't have to be Indian style food. I personally love cooking with spices, but of course I'm biased. I just love all of that. But if you don't like Indian spices and Indian food, you don't necessarily have to cook that way. So um, it's basically, if I could just say one thing, it's sort of looking at what the environment is doing outside and then trying to incorporate the opposite of that in your cooking. So when the weather's hot outside, we want to cook with more cooling foods, eat watermelon, have cooling foods like fennel, like fresh fennel is great, coconut milk. And then when it's cold, dry, we want to be warming up the body. So that could just be, if you're a meat eater and if you're, um, or even if you just eat sort of regular non-Indian style food, you can have lots of soups, stews, casseroles, all of that kind of thing. And it doesn't have to be necessarily cooking with spices. I would recommend
Yeah.
it though, but
So, what's the few spices that you think everyone should have in their cupboard?
oh, the ones that I use on really high rotation are hing. which is probably not a well-known one, so it's probably not a great one to start with if you're a beginner, but hing is also known as asafoetida, and that is just so good when you're cooking with lentils or legumes of any kind because it really enhances our ability to digest um, lentils and spices. Because some people, when they're not used to lentils and they haven't soaked them, it can cause some issues. So hing is definitely one of my absolute all-time favorites. Fresh ginger, dry ginger, amazing if you've got any kind of digestive issues. You can just put a little tiny pinch of dry ginger into some hot water and have that. Um, yeah, so those are probably the main favorites for me, ginger and hing.
Okay,
Yeah.
awesome. Um, and I know that you've got a beautiful little 2-year-old. So,
Hmm.
how do you navigate cooking for the family when it comes to, making sure that your family and your children are also being nourished? Because, yes, they want different meals at different stages, but is there something that as a parent you could also take into account?
Mm. So, I mean, my little guy, like a lot of toddlers, is currently going through a bit of a beige food diet where he sort of just wants plain pasta. He wants
Yeah.
plain toast with butter. And you just have to go with it. Like, so yeah, it's just a matter of doing what you can, really. Like I my high rotational foods are always kitcheries, dals, soups, roast veggies. I cook a lot of that stuff. And he goes through phases with it. So he loves, I cannot believe this, but he loves whole green mung kitchery with brown rice. So I cook up like a
Wow.
big pot of that in the pressure cooker. It only takes like
Yeah.
10 minutes, 15 minutes at the most, and he will
Yeah.
scoff that down. So you might be surprised to any parents out there what your kids might actually like to eat. However, it's just about going back to the basics. So trying to do warm and cooked foods as much as possible to, help their little guts, instead of giving them raw foods all the time and dry, rough, crunchy foods like corn chips and stuff like that, which can really aggravate vata dosha. So, yeah, I just try to stick to warm and cooked foods as much as I can. But of course, you can only do what you can do with a 2-year-old or with most kids. So a lot of the time, it is just plain pasta.
And you know what? I was like that as a kid too, and I still love pasta, so it's
Yeah,
okay.
I'm always trying to put something else with it. Like, I'm always like, do you want just a bit of cheese or do you want something? And it's just like, no, just plain brown rice pasta is all he will eat.
At least he's eating something, right? That's the good
Right,
thing.
exactly.
Yeah. Talking about gut health, and that's definitely a topic that has had a lot of airtime of late. And the good thing is, people are taking interest in understanding their body better. They are wanting to understand what gut health is about and how do we improve or manage it. What are some tips that you've got from a gut health perspective that you could share?
Yeah, so this is a very favorite topic of mine because I have struggled a lot with digestive issues throughout my life. And I was diagnosed with IBS, in my 20s, which is basically just a term for we don't know what's wrong with you. And so I actually found answers through Ayurveda that I couldn't find through conventional medicine. So, yeah, 3 tips for digestive health. Reducing frozen and cold foods would be number one. So, reducing or eliminating iced water, smoothies, acai bowls. Is that how you say it? The frozen
Yep.
bowls, the smoothie bowls, that kind of stuff. And
Yeah.
I'm not going to deny that they are delicious. In Ayurveda, we think about digestion as a flame or a little fire in our belly, and we want to add things to the belly that's going to actually tend to that fire and help it grow and help the fire rather than dumping freezing cold ice water or smoothies or whatever onto the fire. So we would consider that one thing that is quite detrimental for your digestion over time.
Mhm.
Um, salads, raw foods, fine in moderation. But if you do have any digestive issues, then it's best to just have a period of time where you are reducing or eliminating salads and raw foods, because like the iced ones, it's giving your body more work to do when it's already compromised. So yeah. And then lastly, oh, there's two I want to say, but I'll say two. They're just
Okay.
quick ones. So drinking hot water, so sipping on hot water throughout the day helps to just clean out the gunk from our digestive system. So that's a fantastic intervention. And then the last one is, if you have, especially if you have digestive problems, making your dinner the lightest meal of the day and making it an early meal. So like 6 p.m. is great for a dinner. And yeah, if you have like a light soup or vegetarian meal instead of, having a big steak or a pasta at 8 o'clock at night, and that's just gonna, really bog down your gut and, yeah, impair your ability to digest it while you're sleeping. So those are the ones that I would say are the most important.
And you've touched on a great point just as you finished there. So I'm glad that you added more tips at the end. How important is sleep?
As a mother to a 2-year-old, I can say that it's very, very important. And when it's not happening, it is, oh, it's so important. Yeah. So it's just, what can I say about that? I mean, it's imperative to our health and functioning. So, I mean, I think everyone knows that, but we tend to push it a little bit, push the boundaries. Oh, let's just watch this last episode, or, scroll on our phones or whatever. So this year I've really been making an effort to have lights out by 9:30 instead of, I used to push it out to 10 p.m. In Ayurveda, there's a clock, there's like the Ayurvedic body clock, and between the hours of 10 and 12. Anyway, there's a certain time that's the pitta time, and that's where our bodies are doing so much important work. So, the digestion process is happening, there's stuff happening with the liver. Our hormonal system is, resetting and balancing out while we sleep. So if we're staying up and pushing ourselves to be up all night, or even, night owls who are sleeping at 2, 3, 4 a.m. in the morning, it is going to have an impact over time. So yeah, sleep is really important. Lights out by 9:30 if possible. That's what I would say. And also rising with the sun, to help to reset our circadian rhythms as well.
Yeah, nice. You talked about as a mum, there are things that obviously are in control and aren't in control because we've got little ones to take care of and there's more responsibilities. And sometimes, you may want to go to bed at 9:30, but in the middle of the night, the little one wakes up.
Yeah.
Everyone has different ways of managing and raising their children, but what's something that you've found that has helped you just because of your clinical background and then also now your Ayurvedic background? Is there any tips that you can share with our listeners as a mum, like
Yeah.
what you're doing to nurture yourself as well and take out
Yeah.
that time, and also for your family?
Yeah. So yeah, my little boy was not a great sleeper and still has his moments now. So yeah, and what I did was I did go through a phase, even with what I know, I went through a phase of pushing through with like coffee. I went through a big coffee phase until I hit a point where I just realized this is just really burning me out. It is making me so much more anxious and stressed. We tend to get into these vicious cycles where it's like, I've had my coffee and then I don't sleep well and then I wake up and I need another coffee. So if I can just say one thing, it would be to reduce coffee. I think it's one of the most underrated in terms of it's quite a powerful substance, coffee. And the way that it affects some of us is, highly stimulating to the nervous system. And it's, from an Ayurvedic perspective, it can be really heating and drying. And for women who are in the postpartum period, where they're already maybe breastfeeding, they're already depleted, they're already recovering from birth, which can be a very vata imbalanced time, I would honestly say that coffee is one of the worst things that new mums could drink. And I did it myself, and I know the effects that it had on me.
So yeah, from a coffee perspective, especially for our listeners in Melbourne, there is a big coffee culture. So you were saying, what's a good replacement instead?
Yeah.
Especially, if you're nursing as an example.
Mm, yeah. So there are some amazing coffee substitutes out there. So, if you still really don't want to give up coffee altogether, chai is amazing. So, a leaf chai with spices, and then you're getting the benefits of the spices. There's a lot of cacao products out there that have, spices and sometimes even herbs mixed into them. I know that there's a cacao that has like Ayurvedic herbs in it. I can't remember the name of it now, but something like that. I know Banyan Botanicals, which is an American brand, I think. They do a coffee substitute and that has herbs like shatavari in it, which is an amazing herb for women, especially in the postpartum time. So there's so many different things. Even just roasted dandelion tea is great. And then finding your rest somewhere else. So whether it's a very short meditation practice, whether it's finding the time to lie down and do yoga nidra when your baby's napping, or, you know, just finding those little pockets of time where you can just shut off, go internal, and get that little bit of rest back when needed. It's hard though.
Um,
I'm not going to say it's an easy thing to do because it's just not. But, it's worth it.
100%. Because if you're taking care of yourself, then you can take care of your family, right? And
That's
vice
right.
versa. Um,
Yeah.
we're both yoga teachers, for anyone that doesn't know, but I've also done some additional training in yoga nidra. So for anyone that isn't aware of yoga nidra, as Kat said, it's actually very nourishing. But the benefit of it is, even though you're going into a form of sleep, you come out energized on the other side of it. And I will actually link one in this from one of my teachers that you can do in 20 minutes. And the biggest benefit is that even though you feel like you're falling asleep, 90% of the time, try and keep yourself awake, but you will feel a lot more rested. So, great
Mm.
call out. Like to do something like that while your baby is napping. And, sometimes as women in general, we feel like we should go and clean up and do other bits and pieces and continue being active. But I think if you take that time to be a little bit more restful and nourishing for your own body, then you're actually going to be able to be, better for everyone, including
Yeah.
yourself.
Oh, 100%.
Um,
And it's also sort of sending a message to yourself. It's like, you know, the dishes, the washing, it's going to be there. It's going to be there regardless. And so if you're able to just take, yeah, as you said, 20 minutes for a yoga nidra, um, yeah, just allow yourself that time because you are worth it. It's so important for us to rest. Just everyone, but especially mothers and especially women. I think we tend to overdo it.
yeah, we overgive, right? Because that's just our nature. We're nurturers and nourishers by nature.
Yeah.
Um, for women who don't know much about yoga, who don't know much about Ayurveda, who are just plodding along in the best way that they can, and this is the first time that they've heard of these things. What would you suggest are some things that they may have even heard about other things outside of this space, like intermittent fasting, ice baths, doing all these wellness things because it's a big craze at the moment. As a woman, from your own experience, and for the women listening, especially because they need a little bit more nurturance at certain periods of their life, what would
Mm.
you recommend are some things that it's worth them knowing?
Yeah, so focusing in on ice baths, I guess. Um, I'm not like, oh my God, never do an ice bath, but it's a matter of for whom and when. So, for example, taking a pitta type person, that's the one that's made up of fire and water, and someone who's predominantly pitta, they have a lot of heat in their body. They are robust, fairly robust. They need cooling down, right? Um, they would probably be able to tolerate an ice bath much better than a vata type person who is underweight potentially, who has anxiety already, high cortisol levels, is going around sort of up here already, and then the vata person puts themselves in that situation over, if they keep doing it, it's going to throw them more out of balance because vata people are already too cold. So if we're adding more cold in, we're adding cold into the body. It's not great. It's not great over the long term. I'm not saying never do it. I guess try it and see how it makes you feel. If you're more of a robust type, like a kapha person or a pitta person, and you find that that really helps you, genuinely helps you, then yeah, do it. But I think overall, I think women tend to forget that sometimes that we are very different to men. We have very different systems. We have completely different hormonal cycles. And what works for men really well might not always work for us. And it might actually throw us more into a depleted state than it would for a man. So yeah, I would just say do it with caution and take into account your particular body type, and see how it affects you over a period of time and then make a decision. But I would say, like for a vata type person, I would say just don't do it, honestly. But each to
Yeah.
their own.
And what about for a kapha?
Yeah, so for a kapha, it could work. Again, kapha people have coolness in their constitution already. So it would really depend on the person. But for a kapha person, because there's already that cold element and then the more slower element as well. And putting a kapha person in a thing of ice water could also contribute to imbalance. But again, it is kind of a case by case basis. But I would say as a general rule, unless you're quite a fiery person who needs cooling down, and you have, you're prone to rashes or red in your face, and you constantly feel hot and you're sweating. Unless you're one of those people, I would move away from ice baths in general. Yeah.
Nice. Good to hear. Because today, when I was at the gym this morning, there was two women talking about how they've been going to these new studios and hey, let's do it together. So I'd love to see how it works out for them. And
Mm.
that's just something I want to share as well. Like everyone, as you mentioned, everyone's body type is different. And body shaming is something that we can or may have experienced in our life. And Ayurveda is really beautiful because it does allow you to see yourself as an individual and it
Mm.
respects you as an individual, right? So you get to love yourself exactly how you are.
Yeah.
Kat does some amazing treatments, which are, again, an opportunity for self love and self care. Kat, can you share the different treatments that you have available for our listeners?
Yeah, absolutely. Probably my most popular one is massage because who doesn't love a massage? And I think that's been a great entry point for a lot of people who've never heard of Ayurveda, but they've seen that I do massage. So basically, Ayurvedic massage called Abhyanga is a beautiful, like, I'm obviously so biased, but I just think it's like one of the most nourishing treatments you can get. So it's a warm herbal oil massage. Its focus is moving the lymphatic fluid. So it's quite gentle, but it's deceptively powerful. So it's very relaxing as well. So we're using warm herbal oil, as I said, and that kind of absorbs into your tissues as we're doing the massage. I stimulate mama points as well, and there's mama points are similar to acupressure points. They're kind of vital energy points on the body, and so each one corresponds to different like organ systems and different flows of energy in the body. So we stimulate those as well. So it's a very rejuvenating, relaxing, down regulating massage that has so many benefits. And it finishes with a really invigorating scalp massage, which is always nice. So that's that. And I also offer Shirodhara, which some people may not have heard of. So Shirodhara is it's the Ayurvedic treatment that's always prescribed for people if they have any issues with stress, anxiety, hormonal imbalance, sleeping issues. So Shiro means head and Dara means flow. And so it basically means that we're flowing a stream of warm, again, medicated oil over the forehead in a rhythmic way. And what this does is it puts people into kind of a lot of people fall asleep. So it puts you into a really relaxed, dreamlike state. And yeah, it's really amazing. That's probably one of the most powerful Ayurvedic treatments, I think, is Shirodhara. Great for people with depression and anxiety, very relaxing, and it helps to just slow down the mind, clear the mind. It's kind of like having a meditation without having to do anything.
For anyone that doesn't know their dosha type, Kat does have something available where you do
Yeah.
work
So I
through.
also do the health consultations.
Yep.
Yeah, so if someone was interested in getting an Ayurvedic treatment plan prepared for them and finding out what their doshas are and getting some recommendations for herbs, diet, and lifestyle, I do initial consultations and where we sort of sit down and figure out what's going on for you, and then I put together a plan to start to balance some of those aspects that might be out of balance. So yeah, I do have, like, for anyone who is new to Ayurveda, I have an Ayurvedic starter pack, which is the combination of a consultation and a massage together. So you get the best of both worlds, and yeah, and a tongue scraper thrown in. So
And I promise you, you won't be looking back because they are treatments that you'll definitely want to go for again. Just a few more quick questions before we wrap up, and I appreciate all the knowledge that you're sharing. I will be sharing all of Kat's details and request, if possible, on your Instagram page as well, if maybe you can share one or two of the recipes that you think are great, or even just something
mm,
that you think would be great in terms of the winter tips so that our listeners have a quick access of it. I think if
yeah.
you could do that, that would be awesome. But one thing that I do want to touch on, and this was something that, being very transparent, when I met Kat, she didn't know how old I was, and she was having a lot of clients who were coming in with, questions and concerns about perimenopause. And she asked me if that was something that I was also looking to further understand. And no, I'm not at that stage yet, but I really appreciated that because one thing that we discussed is that at my age of 41, I can actually start to take care of myself so that when I get to that stage, it's probably better managed and, I'm kind of prepared for it a little bit better. So, with our listeners, I know that there is an age gap, but a lot of women who have people in their life that are going through menopause or maybe entering it themselves soon in the next 3 to 4, 5 years. What's something that you can share with us, and how do we really manage being a female and having all these changes actually happening?
Mm, I think number one is educating, because a lot of women still don't really, they're just like, oh yeah, I'm going to go through menopause at some point. And I thought that as well until I started learning about Ayurveda, and then a lot of the clients coming to me were going through perimenopause or going through menopause. And then, it really started making me look into it more and realize how much of a big transition it is for women. I think number one is just reducing stress. So that's easy to say, hard to do, but starting to look at your life, seeing what's working, seeing what's not, seeing where you're being overstretched and where you can start to bring some of your energy back to yourself. Because that's a big theme that I've seen for women going through menopause is they have a complete like mental shift around how much they're putting out. And they start to go, hang on a second, like I need to look after myself. And I haven't been for so long. So I think if we can get ahead of the curve and start to do that before all of the hormonal stuff starts happening, that's number one. So just really reassessing your life and making sure you're doing what you can to bring your energy back to yourself. And then thinking about cleaning up the diet, cleaning up, things like alcohol. And again, I don't want to bang on about coffee, but coffee, alcohol, um, and starting to, I would recommend going through a cleanse, but that might be a bit too full on for someone who's just learning about Ayurveda. But I think setting aside a period of time before perimenopause where you can do a cleanse so you can reset your digestive system, take out all of the inflammatory foods and the foods that might be causing issues, and go a little bit internal and have a week or two where you do that for yourself. Great way to prepare for perimenopause. And number three, I think circadian rhythm again. So rising with the sun, going to bed at when it's dark, about 9:30 is a really great way to start allowing your body to, the endocrine system to just regulate and, before the changes start happening. So I think the takeaway is just to, before you get to that point where the symptoms start coming up, and for some women it passes with no issues, and that's great. But yeah, just taking those steps to balance out your health before it starts happening.
Yeah. And you know what? We want to live and enjoy life today as well, right? So it's nice to
Mm,
prepare for the future, knowing that as women will go through menopause. But if you start to feel healthier from the inside out, it's a bonus and a plus.
yeah,
Start working on it now.
yeah, 100%.
Yeah, it doesn't matter what your age is. I think health is well. Just before we finish up, is there anything that you want to share with women or even some male listeners that might be out there that has helped you on your journey, that has been something that would be empowering for them?
Um, I think just realizing that, as you said, health is wealth. So health is really, a lot of us take it for granted. And until you really have experienced, some wobbles with your health, or maybe you've been diagnosed with something, I think it's at that point that we all sort of go, oh, okay, wow. Like, and so it can be hard sometimes, especially when we're just starting. It can be so hard to just make those shifts. But I think at the end of the day, just realizing that we are so worth our own care to ourselves, So it's just about like treating yourself and treating your body as if you were looking after someone that you really loved, like your child or your family, and thinking, what do I really need in this moment? What's the most nourishing thing I can have for myself? You know, and of course, enjoy the cake, enjoy this and that, but always I think it's just about getting back to, you know, your daily life is about kind of nourishing yourself and taking those steps to create health and, do what is best for yourself, really.
Yeah, I love that. Where can we find you so that people can book in a session and learn more about Ayurveda?
Best way is probably through Instagram. My name on Instagram is Prakasha Ayurveda. And then my booking links through there, and you can message me through there. So that's probably the easiest way at the moment until my website gets back up and running.
Okay, awesome. I'll share the details definitely in the show notes as well. I appreciate everything that you've shared with us today. I've definitely learned something, and I find that these conversations are really empowering because not only do we get a different lens of how we could live, but it's good to connect with women who are already on that journey or who have had challenges and they've used different ways in their life to overcome them. And they're people like us,
Mm.
living day to day, trying to do the best that we can. So I know that you embody a lot of what you teach as well. And, it's something that you continue to share so beautifully on your Insta page as well, which I love seeing. So thank you.
Thank you.
Um, for all of our listeners, connect with Kat, go get yourself a massage. It'll be the best treatment that you've had. And yeah, like I said, definitely take care of yourself. Take that time out to really nourish yourself and get to know yourself a little bit better, because we're always in this moment of the next thing that we need to do and wanting to take care of everybody else. But when you start to take care of yourself, the shifts that come from it are very positive and empowering. And nothing like a nice Abhyanga massage to get you started.
Definitely. And I think we all go through phases of like, expanding and contracting. I know I do. So, it's not about, oh, I'm on this path now and I have to get it perfect constantly, because that just causes so much stress. And I have been that person before, and it's actually been more detrimental to just going, hey, I'm just going to do my best. Like you said, on this day, I'm going to do my best. Some days it didn't happen. That's fine. But it's always just about orienting towards, yeah, those practices that are going to benefit you the most. So, yeah.
Love it. For our listeners, stay connected. Thank you for listening in. Please share, like, and subscribe, and we'll see you on the next episode. Take care.